Hi, Christine. Hi, Janina.
Anthony fixed his car.
Yay! Yeah, I said, and I always send angels, mechanical angels, and that's so interesting that you said that because that means the Lord hears my prayers, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a confirmation that he fixed the car himself, you know?
That's so cool. I love it. Well, I did see shoot. Renelle, she said that she didn't think she could make it on today, so I'm not surprised by her not being here. But I haven't heard from Ola and Debo. Have any of you? No? Okay. Well, I don't know what's up. So, shall we get started anyway? I mean, it's 1:09. Um, I would like to start out. Actually, I want to talk a little bit about something even before we engage the heavenly classroom, okay? Because the Lord, I had some people asking me questions, and I felt like it's something that needs to be clarified, at least with what the Lord has shown me. And it doesn't mean it'll be the same thing for you necessarily. But I just want to clarify some things about Easter, okay? Because, you know, most of the world is celebrating that today. So, I don't celebrate Easter. I it actually came up in a really funny way. Um, you guys know Robert, right? Do you know him? No, you don't. Okay, Amparo doesn't. Well, he is a part of our ministry with Engaging Heaven and does private appointments. He also lives in my backyard. So in my backyard, I have a studio apartment and he lives back there. He moved here a year ago from South Carolina. So he's kind of new to being around all of us because he started ministering with us before he ever lived here. And anyway, he was going through some different things in the spirit, and he's in the 201 class right now, by the way. So he's just a step ahead of you guys in that. But he was going through some things, and the Lord told him that he was battling Baal. And he was asking me, he said, "Do you know why this might be?" And I said, "Are you making some sort of Easter plans?" And he thought it was a total different conversation and that I was inviting him to Easter. And so I just assumed he knew this and he didn't know anything about this. And so I should have explained myself apparently. Um, you know, Easter, originally, I'll just tell you this. Originally, Easter was created by Constantine. It was a way of merging the Christian and pagan celebrations. Okay. So they would celebrate Ishtar, who is also Baal. Okay. So they would do these different things. And that's where we get a lot of the traditions like the egg hunts with the dyeing of the eggs, because they would dip them in the blood of the sacrificed babies and all of this and dye them red and all of that sort of thing. But anyway, so all of this happened with that and it's really Baal. So I thought he kind of knew the background on that stuff and he had no idea I was talking about that. He thought it was a total different conversation. And so a couple weeks later, he said to me, he was in my kitchen as I was cooking, and he said, "Hey, so what kind of Easter plans do you guys have?" And I'm like, "I don't have any plans. I don't celebrate Easter." And he's like, "But you asked me if I wanted to have Easter plans with you." And I'm like, "I for sure did not ask you that. And it's because I'm like pretty adamantly against it, right? And only because the Lord told me, okay, so if you celebrate, no judgment. But anyway, um
I
he
don't.
was very confused about this whole thing because he didn't know that I was referring to the Easter plans as maybe he was partnering with Baal by accident. Okay. So that's what I thought may have opened the door. And, sometimes people do that. And so anyway, he was kind of shocked and he didn't know why I was like this. And later on, he was joking around and started sending me all this Easter stuff, like with Easter bunnies and all of these different things. And it kind of ticked me off because he knew that I was against it. And I said, hey, I really don't think this is funny. And I know he was just trying to be funny. But I don't want anything to do with Easter. And he's just like, oh, do you not believe in the resurrection? And I'm like, oh, I 100% believe in the resurrection, you know? And I went through all of this stuff with him about it. Um, and I realized I may not have explained this sort of thing to people. And the other thing is then I had, someone who's a graduate. It was Dottie. You guys remember Dottie, right? So she was messaging me because her can't remember, like nephew or something was celebrating Passover and wanted to know what kind of communion elements to get. And she said, don't you use unleavened bread at Passover? And wouldn't this matzah be the right thing? I'm like, yeah. And I said, but should be celebrating Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, at Passover. and and she said, I don't know why he would be celebrating it now because she looked it up and it's in April, April 22nd, 23rd. And then for 8 days, right? And so anyway, I said, well, it has a lot of Christians don't really understand the actual feast. They just know that they're at the time where Yeshua was getting ready to be crucified. The Last Supper was a Seder meal. It was a Passover meal. And him actually dying on the cross and being resurrected was all about the Passover lamb. And this whole thing was a Passover thing. He was crucified on Passover, And so all of this was the Passover dinner was basically a prediction of the Messiah and what would happen. And so we celebrate all of that at Passover. And she goes, oh my gosh, that makes sense. And that's why a lot of people will have like a Seder meal and Passover thing during Easter, is because they don't really understand when Passover is anyway, because they don't actually celebrate the feasts. They just are kind of doing it because that's part of what they consider Holy Week, right? And so anyway, I was talking about this with my last class, and Yahim is in that class, and he is from South Africa, like you, Janina. And he lives in a township where he's the only Christian. So, like, everyone around is celebrating, or like they practice witchcraft, and that's their main religion, is all of the pagan stuff, right? And so they were up all night doing these drum circles for worshiping Ishtar. And he was a couple days before, like on Friday, he went with some friends to celebrate Passover. And I said, why are you celebrating Passover when it's not till next month? And he said, I don't know. I thought that if you're not celebrating Easter, you celebrate Passover, because that's what everyone does there, I guess. And so where he lives, at least, I don't know if it's the same where you live, Janina, because I know you're not as well, there are a lot more in the Black community that are into witchcraft than in the white community. So So I'm guessing it's not as prevalent where you're at because it's a lot wider area. But anyway, I didn't know that that was kind of normal there because they know that the witchcraft is celebrating Ishtar. And so Christians there on the same weekend always celebrate Passover instead. And it's interesting because it's still this mixture of, the Hebrew and the pagan. And so it's very different to me because here in the States, pretty much people just change the name to Resurrection Sunday and think that it's normal. And so they still
Yes,
celebrate.
that is exactly what's happening here.
Okay.
Like, for instance, my family are celebrating Passover, but some of them are very Christian, so they are saying it's Easter, but they're not doing Easter things. They go to church and they celebrate the crucifixion and the resurrection, but they say Easter, but they don't mean Passover, Easter eggs. They don't mean that, but they use the words Easter.
Yeah.
And then some of them are celebrating Passover in this time just because it is a public holiday and it's, I think, supposed to be tradition.
So here, most people don't celebrate Passover during Easter or Holy Week. Sometimes people will have a Seder, but it's almost rare that people do that. Christians, like you'll see a couple churches around who do that, but it's really not, they wouldn't say they're celebrating Passover. Like they probably wouldn't even make the connection. They just are having this Last Supper that is a Seder. And so, right, wouldn't you say that, Amparo?
Yes, and the Spanish church is really against the eggs and all of that. They know,
That's good. Yeah.
Yes, and we don't really celebrate Easter, like in the Spanish. Now in the English, I see that they go to church, that day for celebrating but each group of people is different, because if they are Catholics, which many, like in Guatemala, many is Catholics, so they celebrate Easter, Semana Santa, which is Holy Week. That's how they call it. They don't call it Easter, but Holy Week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that here, at least in my area, I'm around mostly English churches. So we have different, churches like Vietnamese churches and Korean churches and Spanish churches and all of that too. But pretty much everybody kind of does the same thing. So a lot of churches will host Easter egg hunts and things like that to try to invite people to church on Easter and things like that. So it's all intermingled big time. It's very normal that people, especially those who are stronger Christians, will generally say Happy Resurrection Sunday or something. But I mean, there are lots of churches who openly have Happy Easter, that's just a thing. And they call it Easter. They celebrate a lot of Easter things. They would never think they were worshiping Ishtar. Like that wouldn't even be a thought. They really have just known that that is about Yeshua's resurrection. Most people here don't know of the background at all of Easter. They just, this is a Christian tradition, that sort of thing. And so anyway, I celebrated Easter for a long time. When I was young, I didn't grow up in the church. and I had a very secular family, so didn't really have any religion. And Easter was a here you get an Easter basket with bunnies and eggs, and we do Easter egg hunts, and we dye the eggs, and we do all the very secular things. That's what I thought Easter was about the Easter bunny. I had no idea it had anything to do with anything else. And even into adulthood, I had no idea that that it had anything to do with Christianity. I was a Christian for probably 4 years before I even found out that Easter had to do with the resurrection. I had no idea, because that wasn't my family's culture. And then I celebrated Easter and the resurrection for I don't know how many years. And it was a big mixture of everything, like I said, because every church does an Easter egg hunt, and sometimes they'll even do resurrection eggs and all sorts of different things. That it's like a huge mixture of the two. And I did that for a long time until the Lord one day, actually I was at a conference on trading, like not trading stocks or anything, like trading in the spirit. Okay. So I was on a conference on trading. And what did you say? I don't know, but hi, Amanda. I'm glad you're here.
Oh,
So anyway, I was at this conference on trading, and this guy started talking about the background of Easter and everything like that. And I don't know why he felt led to do it. Didn't really have much to do with trading. But and he did this whole presentation on it and all the different gods that were related to it, and how it was, I mean, even from the Friday to Sunday bit that has never made sense to any Christian, right? Everybody goes, how is it 3 days? But Friday he was crucified and Sunday he rose again. And you hear every preacher going, he's dead on Friday, but he rose on Sunday, celebrate the risen Lord, whatever. And everybody always goes, I don't really understand that, but okay. And you just kind of go along with it. And anyway, I never knew that this was all done because of Friday and Sunday. Friday had to do with the Queen of Heaven, Jezebel. Sunday has to do with the sun god. And all of these things were on purpose done like that, because of the different worship back then that Constantine put this into place, right? So he was integrating the pagan worship with the Christianity. And so he was trying to get everyone to worship together. And anyway, all of that, I didn't know any background on that. I didn't know anything about some Ishtar. I didn't know anything about and how Ishtar was Baal. And I didn't know any of that stuff. And so anyway, I learned about this stuff, and then I was kind of like, what do I do with that? And the Lord at that time, he just very clearly said, you can no longer celebrate any holiday that has to do with paganism. And I was just like, and he told me I needed to start celebrating the feasts. Well, I didn't know anything about the feasts, like a complete dummy. I've never been around anything. I'd been to a couple Seder meals at churches on Holy Week, but they didn't even know anything about it. Like, it was like, they didn't even know how to do a real Seder meal anyway. It was really kind of funny. Like, I had that much understanding. And so I was a little intimidated. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. How am I supposed to know what to do? I don't have a community that does this. And I just kind of, honestly, it went down my priority list to like number 10, because I didn't know what I was doing. And so then the Lord started bringing the feast to me. And I started to learn little by little about I'm still learning. I'm still like freaking toddler. Okay. I've been doing it for 7 years and I still don't know what I'm doing, but I at least know why I do what I do and why I don't do what I do. And so there's that. I don't feel like I'm very traditional whatsoever. I know I'm not. But I do try to honor the feasts because that's what the Lord showed me was really happening in heaven. Was the feasts were still being celebrated in heaven, which was a shocker to me. I did not know that. And so anyway, that's kind of the whole background. Hi, Elvika. Anyway.
Hello, everyone. I just thought I'm gonna hop on. I miss you guys so much. Are you
What?
are you all well?
I'm well. Yes. Yes, yes. Amanda has been struggling through it. Amanda, how are you doing today? We don't know. Amanda is muted. Okay, well.
I'm still struggling.
You're still struggling. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I'm trying to I am trying to listen to what the Lord is telling me.
Well,
So.
that is good. I was just
Yeah.
talking earlier about, rejoicing in our sufferings. This has been a theme lately, and it is freakishly hard unless we have the perspective of the Father. And when we have his perspective, it changes how we look at everything we're going through. And it doesn't mean you don't cry about it. I mean, you guys, I'll have to tell you another time, but I had some major life change happen yesterday, and I was weepy, even though I knew for sure it was the Lord, and that's the hardest part is like when you know it's the Lord, you want to rejoice, but it's not always easy. And sometimes you mourn, and it's okay to be weepy, even though you trust the Lord and you understand it's for your good and his glory, right? So anyway, got a little off track. I was just talking about Elvika. I was talking about kind of Easter and why I don't celebrate Easter, but all of this. And so anyway, I forgot to tell you. So, Robert was asking me all these things. And then he said, well, do you not believe in the resurrection? And I was like, of course I believe in the resurrection, and he's like, well, your beliefs change all the time. I'm like, I know they do, but for sure I believe in the resurrection. I've been resurrected twice. I've resurrected people lots. I for sure believe in the resurrection. It's the foundation of my faith. And anyway, what I do is I celebrate all of this at Passover because that's what it really is about the crucifixion and resurrection. And that, even though it was celebrated for years all about Moses and the Passover, it was predicting the Messiah, the Passover lamb. And so everything points to that. And so that's when I celebrate. And so Passover is April 23rd, I believe. So it's at the end of April. That's when it starts. It's 8 days. And so you can look it up. We'll be celebrating at Passover. And so anyway, I just want you to know that that's kind of why. What do you say?
Yes.
Years or yours? Yes. Oh, sorry.
You know what? That's so interesting because I couldn't understand why I didn't celebrate it like all the other people. I just didn't feel like doing it. It felt like fake almost. And now I know why. It's because it's supposed to be celebrated on Passover. So I'm so glad you said that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I say one more thing?
Sure.
What you said about going through stuff. You know what my verse is? Since last year that they broke into our house and stole everything. Remember, you said it's going to be an upgrade. And you know what? That's true. They also stole my computer. And I said, I'm not going to buy another one because I don't want another one. I wanted that one. Somebody's going to give me one. And now that I'm teaching, I got an iPad because they are working on iPads. And I was thinking about it. And so somebody did give me one. But the verse, that's what I want to share. Since the break in last year, That's the verse that I'm holding on to. What the enemy intend for evil, the Lord's going to turn around for your good and his glory. And I shared it with my one friend. And now every time something happened, it's like we say it both at the same time. We say, I'm just holding on to that.
Absolutely. You know, that is the very best. That verse actually is what was given to me when we first got broken into years ago. So it was such a beautiful time that it's so crazy to look back and say that, but we had this break-in in our house and all of our electronics were stolen, same sort of thing. And but what happened was the enemy was trying to plant fear in my kids. That's what it was more than anything. And what happened was immediately, like as soon as we figured it out, we just were like, let's go to the Lord. We need to pray for the people who did this. You know, we need to, because they're obviously desperate for something, whether they're desperate for drugs or they are desperate because they don't have money to feed their family, whatever it is, they're somehow desperate. And so we need to really pray over them. And so we started praying over them, and the Lord gave me that verse, and it just planted deep into my kids at that time. And they wanted to turn on worship to the Lord, and they were really proclaiming that this would be for good and everything. And we saw that we didn't have insurance for any of it. And so the church just, I mean, people donated TVs and computers and all these things that were stolen. And we got to see the goodness of the Lord in our lives, but also just through the Lord protecting us. And we were totally safe. Nothing happened to us, you know, and we were able to really intercede for people who needed it. And anyway, now we look back at that and we're like, oh yeah, remember that time we were robbed? And it's a good thing. He really did work it out for our good and his glory. And it's so cool to watch that. Everything that can be horrible adversity and it feels terrible at the time, it can be used for the Lord. Everything, our pain. One thing, I'm going to speak to you, Amanda, because I know pain is a big problem in your life. My brother-in-law, Jason, before he was my brother-in-law, he was my pastor. Okay. And I was serving him as my pastor. And I was going through tremendous pain. I know, Amanda, you know my story with sciatica and how it was horrible pain for like years, no break in the pain. And I had several surgeries and I was on a walker. It was just terrible. Had tons of narcotics I was taking. I was in a pretty dark place. And I remember one day I was just like, when is this going to end? And I was crying to my pastor. And he said to me, Chris, you know, the Lord never wastes your pain. And that somehow stuck with me. And every time I would go through pain, I would go, he never wastes this. He'll use it for something. And he has used it so many times. It's like he didn't just use my pain one time. He didn't waste a drop of it. It has been used over and over and over and over now. And I so appreciate how the Lord takes our sufferings and turns it into beauty, beauty from ashes, right? Anyway, I didn't mean to preach or anything. It's just crazy. The Lord uses all of this, and this is how our suffering can be turned into joy. It really can be. So I can rejoice in my sufferings. Usually I rejoice later. I rejoice in my past sufferings generally, but you know, even at the time, I remember like one of the hardest times in my life was not even that pain. It was when I was young and I was pretty new Christian, I went through a really terrible battle with demonic stuff. I was attacked way worse than anyone I've ever met, and it was over and over and over for years. And I mean, I won't go into all the details, but really gruesome TV worthy stuff. And I don't know how, but my spirit was mature beyond what my soul was. And I remember my spirit just going, thank you, Lord, for letting this happen to me and not somebody else. And it's so weird to say that because it didn't make sense in my mind. But now looking back, I am so thankful that I went through all that because it has been so useful in the kingdom. And one of the things you were saying, thank you, because right now I'm feeling anxious and honestly scared for my job. I was dealing with the spirit of fear. That's what took hold in my life at that time. And I got to, even though it took a really long time for me to learn this lesson, I got to defeat the spirit of fear by letting Yeshua be my authority. Because before, what I was going through, I would always trust the Lord in my head, but everything circumstance wise looked like the enemy was winning and kicking my butt. And it really was happening. And so then it would be like I still was holding this fear because the enemy was winning. And I wanted to trust him. And I believed he could be bigger than that. But it wasn't manifesting because I held tight to that fear by accident. And so once I finally allowed it not to be me overcoming the fear, but Yeshua inside of me overcoming the fear, that's when everything shifted, completely shifted. All of a sudden, I had Yeshua's authority in me, not my authority, his authority inside of me that was able to do anything. And all of a sudden, I was the victor every time instead of it being the opposite. And so that just changed me. And so I know that you can get past the spirit of fear for your job security or whatever. You are not your job, even though you are a mighty influencer through your job for the Lord. You are not your job. The Lord will provide as your husband. For sure, he will provide for you. You don't have to wonder. And this is your chance to lean heavily on him and to go, it all has to be you, Lord. There's no other way. You're the only way. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because I know this is such a rough time and I get it. I totally get it. Well, let's press into our heavenly classroom. Okay. All right, let's do that. Okay, if you can focus back here, that would be great. Janina, make your eyebrows smile or you're going to have wrinkles. You were doing this again.
Focusing.
What?
Focusing.
Focusing. Good. Okay, well, can you share, maybe Janina, if you experienced anything while we were engaging?
I had a really interesting thing that I saw. I saw in the classroom these little bit bored beings, and they were folding linen and towels and stuff. And I said to them, but why are you doing this? And they said, well, this is the only thing we know you do. And since you haven't really given us any instruction, we're so long practicing how to fold the linen in the new place.
You know, this goes right along with our lesson today, so it's perfect.
I thought it was like, no, I think I'm in the hospital in the ICU and I'm imagining things.
That's funny. Nope, that's perfect. Well, do you have someone that you can nominate to share?
Amparo, please.
Well, I just angels, especially one really big angel, like light blue. I don't know if it was Archangel Michael, and they were giving us something to each of us.
Cool.
But, yeah.
That's nice. Okay, would you like to nominate someone else?
Yes, Amanda.
Amanda.
Okay. So what I saw in the beginning was when I approached the classroom, like I was really my spirit was like really down, so they rushed me to the Heavenly Hospital, and then I felt a transfusion, a blood transfusion,
Uh-huh.
and I felt Yeshua there with me, and he laid inside of me. And once I was done with the blood transfusion, then they took me back to the classroom, and I saw on my way over there, I saw a bunch of cloud of witnesses, and it was for just uh, white, white beings just everywhere. And then I got to the classroom, and then Melchizedek was at the front, and everybody was just, rejoicing with each other. And then um, that was it that I saw.
Cool. Awesome. Well, how about I help you nominate the last person? Alvika, your turn.
Thank you. I was engaging, and actually what I was actually pondering about what you said just before that. It was a message for Amanda, but it was definitely a message for me too. I was like experiencing the classes that I'm teaching at the moment, and I realized with what you said, because I also still sometimes feel unsure because it's completely different from what I'm used to. And sometimes I think, am I gonna make it? It's out of my comfort zone. And then I realized you said you're so much more than your work. And I also realized that I think it's about much more than just teaching them Afrikaans. That's just the means to get there. I think it's about more. What I'm actually supposed to give those students are much more than teaching them Afrikaans. And when you said, because I sometimes feel anxious too, I wake up in the morning and I think, oh, am I doing the right thing? And sometimes I don't know. And even though I'm thankful for the iPad, I'm struggling with it because I've never worked with one before. And then, yeah, when you said, it's not you who overcome that fear, but Yeshua in you. And that's something that I'm going to keep on reminding myself whenever I feel like that, to keep that in mind. So when I engaged, I actually saw the kids and how they, especially the grade 9 class, usually a grade 9 class is your most difficult class in a normal school. But there they are like they're the oldest, and it's like almost like the mature ones. They are very, I love them all. They are such nice kids. And when I speak in the morning, when we've got 10 minutes for sharing something, reading the Bible, whatever, they completely quiet. And at first I thought they bored or something, and then I realized, but they actually really listening. And that's how I experienced us in the class, at first being, you know, making jokes and just talk about stuff, and then become quiet and listen. Yeah. Does it sound dear mekaar?
Awesome. Well, what I experienced actually was kind of funny because it goes along exactly with the teaching for today. So generally I would have us first share our homework from the week, but I feel like I'm supposed to go straight into the teaching instead. Okay. So without really meaning to, I wasn't being intentional, but immediately my spirit started saying, I bind the spirit of fear. Okay, now let me just tell you that I was going to talk to you guys about kind of old school praying, is what I'm going to call it, compared to ministering from heaven. Okay, because what we're talking about today is ministering from heaven. And oddly enough, I was going to share with you basics of how people pray today, which generally is like, I bind the spirit of fear in Jesus' name. By his stripes, we are healed. You know, all of these things, right? That's what we do all the time. And we try to, like, the more passionate we get in our words, then the more powerful we think it is. And it's like some sort of weird cultural thing, at least in Christianity. Here it is. I assume it's everywhere. But anyway, we have these ways of praying that is just we generally are like, Father God, would you please do this? And we just pray for this, and we just want this. And it's a very strange way of praying that we always have done. Okay. But this is how we've gone. It's like we're down here hoping the Lord catches something that's meaningful. And if we say the right words, then these things will happen. And then at the very end, we often say, and if it's your will, Lord, then we hope you'll do this, basically. And so it's kind of like this out of, in case it doesn't happen, then we at least said that. And so we're partnering with his will. All right. Okay. I'm not making this stuff up. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. So this is, I admit I've been this person. Okay. So no judgment on those who are still there. That is, I used to be like this a lot. And I now, since I engage heaven and minister from heaven, it is 100% different, way different. And so it's funny. I was going to talk about, you know, oh, we bind this spirit and loose this and whatever. It makes sense. And sometimes we are called to do it, which is what happened just now when we were engaging. I was my spirit was led to bind the spirit of fear that was operating in Amanda and take that spirit to the court of accusations. And so I took the spirit there and said, what is the accusation against her with this spirit? And the Lord showed me that, Amanda, you have taken on the spirit and accepted the spirit of fear as part of who you are. And then I was like, is that, I don't know why I question everything, but I was like, is that true? And I went back and read your message. Thank you, because right now I'm feeling anxious, which does not say you are accepting that as part of who you are. It just means you're experiencing it. And honestly, scared for my job. That, on the other hand, that is part of who I am. I am scared, right? When you say that, you are saying, I am fear. And so you are taking on this part as who you are. And so it's a familiar spirit then. Okay. So a familiar spirit is a spirit who is so familiar to you that you by accident take it on and think it's part of who you are. And so this one, in order to break this off, Amanda, you need a divorce decree from this spirit, because by accident, you have made covenant with the spirit. Okay. You basically married it. It's weird and gross, I know, but that's like the truth. So, Amanda, before the Father, you're going to need to ask for a divorce decree. You don't need to you just do as Yeshua leads. You may not be in the court when you do it. You might be before the throne. I don't know what the Lord will have you do, but I know that you're going to need to ask for a divorce from this and really repent for coming in line with it. So anyway, the Lord was showing me that, and this, awesome. So this is how we need to minister from heaven, because beforehand, before I knew how to minister from heaven, I would have maybe seen the spirit of fear on her because of her words. And then I would say, oh, I bind you in the name of Jesus. You have no power over her, blah, blah, blah. And it would have done that for a moment. And then it would have come right back because it's a familiar spirit. So a familiar spirit is one that has a right to be there. And so anyway, I wouldn't have known, because I wasn't paying attention to what the Lord wanted me to do. I was just deciding what I thought would be the best thing in my mind to do. Right? And so when we partner with the Lord in heaven, when we minister to people, sometimes they'll know about it and sometimes they won't. So if Janina comes to me and asks me for prayer over something, then what I'll do is I will generally just say, okay, I'll bring you before the Lord, or I'll intercede for you. And what I do, whether she understands it or not, say she's like not even a Christian or old school Christian for sure, then she will not understand if I'm going to go to the Lord and ask how I can partner with him. So those words make sense to her. I'm also not promising that I'm going to pray for her healing, because that's where I got off before. I would, if she asked for healing, sure, I'll pray for your healing. But I wasn't asking the Lord if that's what his will was. I was just, then, if it's your will, Lord, but I wasn't going, hey, Lord, how do you want me to partner with you over Janina? And so now what I do is I say, okay, let's focus on this problem you have. Okay, your nose needs to be healed. Okay, then let's pray over your nose. So we focus in and I go, Lord, is there any way that I can partner with you over her nose? And then he might show me something totally different, or he might show me, oh, this has to do with this trauma in her life, or who knows what he's going to show me. Today, I had someone who I met with just before this class, who asked for healing for her son who was struggling real bad, this little kid who has had this problem for over a year of this thing not healing on his butt. And so I'm like, okay, let's pray over that. Let's ask the Lord. As I press in, what the Lord showed me was that he was covering her, who was covering her son. And in that, I was expecting healing and peace and all that. That's not what was happening. He was showing me that she is mourning over him and protecting her son and loving her son and wanting his healing and all of this. And she was supposed to be going through it with him so that she could understand how the father felt about her. And the father was covering her just like she was covering her son. And all of this, anyway, this is what the Lord was showing me. So I had to say, here I was thinking I'm going to ask for healing over the son. And instead, I'm like, well, actually, this is what the Lord was showing me. And it was so meaningful to her because that's exactly what was happening. And she needed that perspective. And that was what was healing to her soul, is because she went through with her son throwing fits and why do I have to go through this? And just such a struggle that she would comfort him and let him throw the fit because she knew it was healthy emotion and was just being there for him and encouraging him. This is only for a season and, all of this stuff. And she was that person for him. And then she would go to Lord, why does he have to go through all this? And kind of throwing the same sort of fit, you know what I mean? But the Lord just let her do it because it was healthy emotion, the same sort of thing. And so anyway, she was experiencing all of this real deep healing in her soul because of what I experienced in the heavenly realms over her, when it didn't have to do with me praying the blood of Jesus over her, healing by his stripes he's healed. You know what I'm saying? It was just going, Lord, how do you want me to partner here? And so that's how we minister from heaven, is we partner with his will in heaven, and then we release it to the earth. So when we pray as Yeshua prayed, on earth as it is in heaven, don't you think that we probably should know as it is in heaven? Because how else can we partner with that? How can we partner with his will if we don't know his will? So ask him, what's your will in this? How can I be a part? And if he shows you nothing, do not partner in some sort of witchcraft. Like, just don't do it. Just go, okay, your will, Lord, whatever you want, I leave it to you. And so then, either it's somebody else's job to come alongside and help him with that, or the Father has a different plan altogether. Whatever the case, you're just trusting them with the Father, blessing them, whatever. But that's all you can do. And it's okay. It's actually best. And one of the things I know I do with Yeshua all the time is I ask if I can do something. Like, for instance, I didn't do this with Amanda, but it might have been something if I were thinking about engaging over her. I wasn't intentionally engaging over her, just like that's what the Lord led me in. But if I were intentionally doing that, then I might think, maybe we need to go to the courts. And so I'll ask Yeshua, do we need to go to the courts? And then what will happen every time is he'll either lead me into the courts or lead me somewhere else. And I know if he leads me somewhere else, it's a big fat no in a kind way. And so anyway, he often will lead me somewhere else that will be just as fruitful in a totally different way. But that's all you need to do. You can come with a request, but just be okay with it not turning out the way you think. Because we are submitting our will to the Father. That's what we're doing. And so if we minister from heaven, so let's say Elvika, she has these students in her class, and let's just say she knows she's called to minister to them, even though she may not be able to say a word about it. She can still access the heavenly realms And she can go, oh, this boy is struggling. Lord, is there anything that I can do for him? And just see, the Lord might be like, yeah, spirit of understanding is being released over him right now. Okay, you're supposed to light him on fire with the spirit of understanding, whatever, in the heavenly realms. You're ministering from heaven. He may know nothing about it, but you are doing what you're supposed to do to minister from heaven. And you don't have to, like, I was talking to this lady the other day who is a shut-in, okay? Like, she's super old. She has no family around her. She has felt like her purpose has been lost in life. All she can do is pray for people. Well, the Lord started, I'm engaging over her, and the Lord started showing me. So she has all this pain in her body, tons of health problems. And the Lord started showing me that she's supposed to transform that energy and release it into the earth for people's healing. Okay, she has a really big, awesome mandate right now. Like, she's old and decrepit, so she thinks that she has no purpose. But in fact, the Lord is using this as a great time of ministering, even though nobody will know it. She'll be the only one who understands it, but that's what she's supposed to do. And so we can still, even if we don't have a job, we don't have family, we don't have anybody around, we can still be highly functional in the spirit. And so we need to just remember that it doesn't matter your circumstance. If you're in a great amount of pain, ask the Lord, what do I do with the pain? What's my purpose here? What is the purpose of my pain? How is it not wasted? What am I supposed to do? It doesn't just have to be pain. It can be anything you're going through. Just ask him, how is this beneficial right now? Show me what I'm supposed to do with this. And you might have an experience like Amanda, where she was like, the Lord's like, oh, thank goodness you pressed in right now. We need to rush you to the heavenly hospital. Right? I mean, this happens to me where the Lord's like, finally, now I'm rushing you over almost dead to the river of life. This is what he does to me half the time. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think I'm not useful in any way until I press in and realize, oh my gosh, there are all these beings that are ready and waiting to minister to me. And so sometimes it's not only about how we are ministering, but how others can minister to us. So Janina, you saw these angels and other beings who were there folding linens because they think that's the only thing that we do, right? Legitimate. Okay. How often are we enlisting them for help in things? Pretty much rarely, right? Once in a while. But let's go, wait a second. How am I supposed to minister from heaven if I'm not partnering with any heavenly beings? Lord, how am I supposed to partner with you? Who else is supposed to partner with me? What are we supposed to do together? Amparo brought up this, that she would, her son was having a problem with his car, didn't have the money to fix it, was like, I think I can try to fix this. And so we started engaging over him. And I saw these angels ready to go to work and help him with fixing the car and getting lower prices. And I'm like, cool, that's nice. Well, she'd been already asking these angels to go help him. And so I was just seeing how the Lord was already partnering and how she was already partnering with this same thing, having heavenly resources. This is what we're supposed to do. And we can do it for everything. It doesn't just have to do that. If you're like, I don't remember how to use this iPad. Okay. Ask for help. Ask the heavenly beings to help you. I do this sort of thing all the time. I have a phone that won't turn on. What the heck? Okay, angels, could you please just help turn this phone on? I don't know how to fix a phone. And that's what I do. And they do it. They do it every time. They're so wonderful to help us. Oh, my back is hurting. I need a massage. Are there any angels who could give me a massage? This is legitimate. This has happened to me. Like, I do this. I'm not, please don't just do what I do, but this is, I know I need help. Okay. I'm a single mom over here with very little resources, but I have all the heavenly resources I need. So I go, okay, I don't know how I'm going to pay this electric bill this month. Lord, I need help. I need your help. What do I do? And then the Lord will show me either an angel that's sent out to whisper in someone's ear, or, oh, I'm supposed to release from heaven these coins from the treasure room, or who knows what it is. But I mean, sometimes I'm led to call in business and all sorts of things. The Lord will lead you to what you're supposed to do from heaven for the resources you need on earth. And I'm telling you, every time I do this, I'm like, okay, money's coming in. I'm believing for it. Money's coming in. And I start every time I do this when I sip. Have I told you this? The Lord told me to say every time I take a sip of a drink to say money's coming in. And so it's part of my like learning a new mantra instead of this bad mindset of poverty. And so anyway, I sip and I go, money's coming in. And even if I don't say it out loud, I'm around people, I'll say it in my mind. So, and so it's still sending out that frequency. What?
While you're taking a sip.
Yep.
Last week, I picked up my dad and my back was straight when I lifted him out of the chair. And I just heard tick. And I felt something in my back go. And I was like, oh no. I don't know how this could happen because I was in the right position. This is like impossible. I could not hurt my back, but I did. And the next day, I had scheduled 3 working days. That's like 30 hours of therapy. And I have nobody to help me. And I've hurt my back. And I just asked the heavenly beings to come and fix it. And you know what?
It was
the first day, it was still sore. Second day, it was much better. And on the third day, I felt nothing anymore.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're reminding me right now. Thank you. This is why we have the body. Okay. My son, Soren, hurt his neck. Kind of, I don't know if I could say hurt his neck. He's having problems with his neck since he woke up funny one day. And my friend, Dr. Sarah, said it had to do with fungus and parasites, actually. And so we've been doing some work with different remedies on that. But I didn't even think to ask the angels or heavenly beings to come and help. Isn't it funny how we do this? Like in some areas, we're really awesome. In other areas, we're like complete idiots. Okay, we're not idiots, but we tend to act like that. We are brilliant still, but we forget. We forget. Yes.
We forget.
That is more accurate. And anyway, I need to ask them to help Soren and go fix his neck and take out the parasites. So anyway. Well, we have so much that we could go over in ministering from heaven. I mean, a million different ways that we could do it. And I think the most important thing is to always just ask Yeshua, what should I do? In fact, when I will say I did know that I was supposed to call Sarah because I was asking the Lord, what should I do? And he told me to call Sarah, Dr. Sarah, to do. I didn't know. I thought she'd maybe come over and adjust his neck or something, but that wasn't what she did. But he knows whether it's something in the natural or in the heavens. The only thing is we have to shift from our default. So our default, we've generally learned certain things. So everybody's a little different. Like for many years, my default was running to the doctor. That was my default, was run to the doctor if something's wrong, right? Or if my phone glitches out, my default was take it to Verizon. see if they can fix it, right? Whatever. We have these certain things that we default to all the time, worldly things. And it's not that any of those things are bad. We need to do it when we're led to do it, not just because it's default. And that is a different perspective. It's a heavenly perspective instead of a fleshly perspective. Okay. So going to the doctor isn't always bad. It's sometimes really important in what you're supposed to do. But you have to know that that's what the Lord is leading you to, because he might just be like, yo, take a foot bath. You're fine. You know, he might be like, oh, you need to engage this angel to help you. You have no idea what it's supposed to be that you're supposed to do unless you ask. And so we just have to train ourselves to quit ministering from earth. So as ministers, all of us are ministers in our own areas. We need to quit ministering from the flesh, which is our default. The default is, let me do what I think is best, right? Which is eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? Here's what I know is right. I know that the scripture says, by his stripes we're healed. Therefore, everyone must be healed all the time just by saying that. That is still eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which leads to death. Now, when the Lord says, by my stripes you are healed, you need to come into the reality of who you already are in the heavenly realms. By all means, claim that it's the tree of life. That is him saying, this is life-giving. This is for you. So none of these things are bad. We have to think of what is life-giving, what is from the Father. That's our perspective now, is what is coming from the Father. What's he leading me into? How can I partner with him as a king or priest? Yeah?
I think you need to explain that again with different words, because I'm not getting it. I'm hearing you, but I'm trying to make it applicable to what I do and how I do it. I know how I do it, but I'm trying to link it to your language.
Okay. Let me describe it in a way that would relate to your practice. Okay.
Okay.
So here's what Janina does. Okay. People come to her with a, say, leg problem. I don't know. Everybody comes for something different with you, but someone comes to you from this. So what you do generally is you now focus on, Lord, what do you want me to say and do? Which is absolutely ministering from heaven. Sometimes you default into, well, I know that this herb does this and this remedy does this, and so you need to do this. Okay, so that's the part that is fleshly, when you are depending on your own knowledge of what is right or wrong or good or bad, right? Don't eat sugar, eat, I'm making things up here, but you understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Good, yeah.
so there you are functioning from your own fleshly knowledge compared to when you are asking, what am I supposed to do here? And then the Lord will say, oh, you need to do this, work with the cranial sacral fluid and do this. And then you need to ask them this question. And, he's leading you all the way, and you're eating from the tree of life and you're ministering from heaven when you're doing that. You can go further and say, is there anything in the heavens that I'm supposed to do over them besides that? Like, not just what are the right questions, but what, Lord, is there something I'm supposed to cut off? Is there something, what do I need to do to partner with you, right? And so even when you're going over the remedies or whatever you're doing, like you've probably seen, I don't know, maybe you haven't. You've probably seen me test remedies and things with frequency. Have you seen me do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you can do that. You're communicating with the body still. Okay. Which isn't bad, because you are learning what the body is saying it needs. But you need to be led into doing that. So, for instance, for me, there are a million ways that I heal people. I'm a healer in a totally different way than you, but I just try to do whatever the Lord leads me to. And sometimes he'll be like, you need to help them through essential oils. And so then I go, okay, Lord, what am I supposed to do? And then he'll lead me in that way, and I'll communicate with them. This is what we need to do. Other times he's like, you need to cut off this weird thing that's attached to them in the spirit. Okay. And so I'll do that. Other times it's like, you need to lay hands on them. Sometimes, and this is where someone asked me the other day about Reiki. And I'm like, okay, this is a complicated question for me because I've always been kind of weird about Reiki because my mom does Reiki and she does it outside of the Lord. Okay. And I was like, I'm not comfortable with that. Then one time, the Lord started doing this with me. He'd tell me, lay hands on them. And then he'd be like, no, not actual on them. And then he had me like be in their energy field. And I would feel the heat start to come, and they would get healed by me doing these certain things. And the Lord would show me what to do. And I realized I was basically doing Reiki, but not in the way that was with another spirit. I wasn't taught to do any of it, to do these certain things by my own knowledge. It was only what the Lord was leading. And every time, it's only what the Lord is leading. I only do that when the Lord tells me to, and I only do it where he tells me to and how. I don't know anything about anything, you guys. Like, I really don't have skills. I just can listen. That's the only thing I'm really great at, is listening to the Lord and paying attention to what he's saying, because I don't know how to do anything in the heavenly realms without him telling me. Like, everyone goes, wow, how do you know what to do in the courts? I'm like, I don't know. He leads everything. Like, I don't know anything. I just go with his leading. Whatever he says is what I do. And so that's how we need to be in every area, is just doing what he says to do, and quit going back to the default, which is the leaning on our own understanding, on the things that we have learned are good or bad. I mean, he threw me through a loop one time. I've been a chronic dieter my whole life. Okay. I have been a chubby girl since I was born. And not since I was born. I was born actually quite little, but then toddler and up. Okay. I've always been chubby, and I have always been a dieter. And once I got a little older, I would ask the Lord what I was supposed to do instead of just doing what I've learned is right and wrong. But I'd have these different things that I would learn, like ice cream is bad. Okay. I learned like it has sugar and fat and it's never going to help you. And so cucumbers are good, certain things like this. I would learn good and evil things to eat. And at least in my mind. Okay. And I knew a lot about nutrition. I still know a lot about nutrition. And then one day I'm asking the Lord, am I still doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my eating? And he just said, you need to not limit anything. You need to eat whatever you want. And I'm like, but Snickers bars, that's a candy bar. And he's like, anything, you're not supposed to limit yourself at all. Well, my gosh, that was like the best discipline for me, because I had to get out of my head of this is good and bad. Because I had trained myself my whole life of this is good and bad. Bacon, bad. Like certain things, bad, good. And so I had to get completely out of that. And I was actually questioning, because everyone around me is like, why are you eating that? And because they know me, I'm a healthy eater. And then I'm eating ice cream or something. And I'm just like, the Lord said I'm not supposed to limit anything. And I was just doing what he told me to do. And then I was introduced to Dr. Frank my friend Dr. Sarah paid for me to go to Dr. Frank and fix some things in my health. And my first time with him, he's finding all of these things wrong with me. And I'm like, oh. And so at the end, by default, I think doctors know way more than anyone. And so by default, I'm like, so is there anything I need to stay away from food wise? And he's like, no, actually, right now, if you changed and started dieting in any way, it would be too much stress on your system. You need to just have freedom to eat whatever you want to eat right now. And I was just like, the Lord was right. Like, of course the Lord's right. But so funny how even he confirmed what the Lord was telling me, that was good for me. And so it is about what's life-giving, not what we know to be good or evil. And it's so strange, but the Lord knows what's life-giving for us. And he never condemns us for going back to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He just goes, wait, back over here, honey, over here, baby, and he's like, this is going to be better for you. It's kind of like what we do with our little kids. I mean, we just go, well, over here, honey, let's not go to the light socket. Okay. Over here. How about play with this train? And so we know that that's how the Lord is with us, but we have a tendency to default back to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil because all of us have been taught since we were very young in school to train our mind with that. Our mind is supposed to rule everything, right? I mean, that's what we've been learning our whole lives, basically. We've spent years in school training our minds. And so we learn all these things and then we depend on the knowledge instead of actually on the spirit. And so now we're having to retrain ourselves to focus in the spirit and be led by the spirit instead of our own knowledge. So anyway, I don't know if that is a better way of saying anything or if that was helpful or not, but yes.
I think in my work, the thing that sabotages me the most is the spirit of tradition and religion, actually. When I start asking them a question and they go, Jesus will heal me, or, Jesus will do it. But I think what I'm seeing there, which I didn't see previously, is that they actually need to go to the courtroom because that is depending on that tree of knowledge rather than spirit.
Well, and it really depends. Sometimes they don't even need to go to the courtroom. I mean, there are times where, the Lord is saying, hey, I sent you this vitamin C. That's how I'm healing you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And
so for everything, there is a different answer. Like you say you're a healer, but I'm not a healer. I'm a translator. So I just need to translate the formula from heaven to earth. And it is that in the translation, for you, it's vitamin C. For you, it's going to the courtroom. For you, it's pulling out the dagger and throwing it to the North Pole.
yes.
Yeah.
And you're really good at that already. So that's something you're very good at. There might be times that the Lord shows you that you're defaulting back to old things, right? But in general, you have changed your practice to be not just depending on the knowledge, like for instance, okay, the scanner thing that you use, right? That I think is so fabulous. I do. But that is only important when the Lord says that that's what you need to do. Because for me, there have been times that was used on me that that's not what the Lord was leading. And so it kind of drew me away from what the Lord was telling me to do. On the other hand, there have been times that it was what the Lord was saying I needed, and it has transformed how I'm doing things and how my body is. And so it really, everything depends on that, because it seems like using the scanner thing would be eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But it's not if that's what the Lord is saying to do. So there really is no right or wrong.
The right answer, when the Spirit is saying something else, is never the right answer.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's not a good or bad thing. It's in the moment. Is it the right application?
Exactly.
The right translation or not?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I agree with Christine. I want to add to that. You already do that, Janina. Sometimes you think it's a gut feeling that we should go this way and not that way, and it's not a gut feeling. It's actually the Lord leading. That's what I experienced when I was with you. And also you are led by. Remember when you said, I said, "Are you gonna fix me?" Because there was some problem. I can't even remember the first time. And I said, "Okay, so are you gonna fix it?" And then you said, "I'm not fixing anything. The only um doctor is your body. It's going to do it. It's going to heal by itself." And then remember how you touch and it became warm. So you en route, my friend.
Thank you.
Very good. And these things aren't just for healers or whatever. Everything that we're doing needs to be like that. And we all minister in very different ways. So just like I was saying with Elvika, I mean, you don't have people who are coming to you every single day going, "Here, fix me." They're just like, "Can you please teach me Afrikaans?" They may not even say please. They may hate being there. I don't know. But you have a totally different way of ministering from heaven than Janina. And so, but it all is the same when it comes to just asking the Lord what you should do. And even when I teach these classes, okay, so I minister in a different way than this, right? So here I'm teaching these classes every morning before I teach. I press in and I go, what am I supposed to be doing? Yes, this is the plan you've already given me. Am I still supposed to be teaching on that? If so, in what direction do you want me to go? And I try to always just go with what he's saying. And so every time we engage in the heavenly classroom, almost every time anyway, he's giving me downloads of how he wants things to go and what I'm supposed to be saying, because it's about ministering from heaven and not my own knowledge, my own experience. Even though a lot of times I draw on that as I'm led, he'll bring up these different things I'm supposed to talk about. And so that's how I function. Not all the time. I also am like, "Hey, Soren, what do you want to watch on TV?" I don't always be like, "Hey, Lord, do you want me to watch TV? Hey, Lord, what should I be watching on TV?" I should do that, but I don't always think of it. And so we all have to grow in our different areas of how we lean on the Lord, how we function from heaven. But that needs to be the place we learn to have our community and we interact with the heavenly beings. Can you believe they're just sitting there trying to fold laundry? Are you kidding me? Like, y'all have way better skills than just folding laundry. Do not worry about those things. Humans can take care of those silly things. I'm just saying we need to engage them in our lives. They are wanting to partner and don't know what in the heck they're supposed to do if we don't even ask for it. So let's ask, just be intentional to ask, "Hey, Lord, is there any way that they could partner with me this week? Hey, Lord, in this situation that I'm really struggling with, hey, my dad is acting like a lunatic. Can you please help me, Lord? What am I supposed to do? Are there any heavenly beings who could partner?" Whatever. I'm making this up, but you understand. There's so many things that we could enlist their help with. Oh my gosh. I don't know how many times I've enlisted their help for chores. So maybe they really are doing the right thing by folding laundry. Okay. But I have been like, I'm making this dinner and I am running behind and I need somebody to chop the freaking onions. And I am stressing out and I just go, "Lord, is there anybody who can help me?" Can you please just send some angel to help me? Well, you know what either happens? I either end up going like way faster because he shows me to stretch the timeline or something, right? He'll do that. Or he'll all of a sudden somebody comes in, hey, you need any help in here? And I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, angels, because my kids don't ever volunteer to help. So, you know, if this happens, this is a miracle from heaven. Okay. Anyway, you know, we can enlist them for help all the time. And they really can help, even when we think it's impossible. Just like Amanda said, oh, I thought I was the only one about the massage. You know, that is a big deal. Like for me, the first time I did that, it was after a car accident. And I was sitting there waiting for another car to come a tow truck to come. And my back was hurting and I'm like, I just need a massage. And one of my traveling angels came over and started massaging me. And I was like, this might be the worst massage I've ever gotten. But I was like, I appreciate your help. And I know you're just trying to love me. And so anyway, it's not always, 100%, but next time I would have been like, hey, could you find someone else to maybe come and do this? But it was love. And so anyway, we can do it anytime. Ooh,
I wanted to ask you, do you always know the names of the beings that's helping you? Or
No.
when you are doing something so general, are you just asking for any volunteer or?
It depends. So like at that time, I was asking one of my traveling angels to help. And so that's why they helped. But I don't know. There's so many beings that I don't know who come and help a lot. So generally, I'm asking for whoever can help. I've gotten to know certain ones and what they do and what they're good at. But there are a whole lot more that I don't know. I don't know their names. Even some of them I work with regularly, I don't know their names. This is kind of funny, but one of the most common things people ask me is, hey, can you help me know the name of this angel? And I don't know if you know this, but I do not hear in the spirit. So it is rare. I mean, I've probably heard in the spirit like 3 or 4 times ever. And so for me, that's one of the hardest things to ask me because I have to get a knowing about it that sometimes comes with like, I see letters or something, but it's like the fuzziest thing. I question myself on it all the time. And so for me, I don't even really care about the names and things like that. I love them. They love me. We work together. I know who I'm communicating with. Like I can feel them. I know their presence. I don't know if this makes sense. It sounds terrible, but it's just how I function in the spirit. And so even like if I see Amparo in the spirit, she doesn't look like I see her here. I just know her spirit. Like I feel her spirit. I know her spirit. And so I know it's her. But it wouldn't make sense to anybody because it doesn't look like her. You know what I mean? And so that's how it is with all beings with me. So anyway, everyone's different though. Yes,
Like,
Amparo.
yes, like when I was praying for my son Anthony, I said, Father, send mechanical angels. So, mechanic angels. So he has mechanic angels. That's what I asked for. And I see that there are specialized angels that specialize on mechanics, So that's what I did in that case. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very similar to how I work. Um, there there was one time that there was this angel who was assigned to me and he was like so excited to work with me, which I'd never seen anyone like this before. And this angel, he was like so excited. And so I'm like, oh, can you help me with this? And he just said, no, but I can find someone who can. And I'm like, okay. But it is just kind of cool to have that experience. Like there are some that are a little more mature and know who they are. And I'm like that. If Amparo said to me, hey, Christine, could you come and work on this car for me and fix this transmission? I'd be like, no, but I know a guy, like that is not my lane, I can't do that. But what I can do is I have a lot of people that I know in the spirit and also in the earth who can do these things. And so anyway, that was a really long answer for no, I don't know the name of everyone. Yeah.
I once thought that when I was doing something really difficult and I was struggling, I had this idea, I suppose, a spirit-led idea. And I just asked for all the beings that needed an upgrade to come help me. And it was really very good outcome.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a good idea. That's really cool. Man, well, I'll tell you, when you go to the court of angels and ask for help, oh my gosh, the ones that they like jump up and down so excited to help. Like there are a lot of angels who are like, please put me to work. And that was shocking to me the first time I experienced that, because I just kind of figured everybody's always doing something, but it's not. And so just like you asked for anyone who wanted an upgrade, that's what it felt like, that they were like, yeah, I'll get to move forward. That's kind of how it felt. So anyway, that's cool. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, how about get out your homework? Do you guys remember what we were learning about last week? I'm taking that as a no, maybe. Kingdom
Are you
order?
talking about the things we had to do for this week or the previous week?
For this week.
Okay.
So this week we talked about kingdom order, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And so did you guys get anything on that?
Yes.
Yes. Would you like to share?
So I actually wanted to ask you, so if you have a bench of 3,
Yeah.
Are you supposed to first check with the person that you got if they want to be in the bench of 3?
Yes.
Okay, so I still have some homework to do because I couldn't get a hold of the people that are on my bench.
Okay.
I thought maybe I should just ask them if they want to be.
Yeah. So this is what I do, and this is what I recommend everyone does. So, and it's like this with all the benches. So for instance, you might have a bench of 3, and then you might have a bench of 7, right? Whatever it is. So I'm going to give an example of our storehouse bench. Okay. First of all, we were like, well, we know the Lord's calling us to do the storehouse thing. Who's supposed to be involved? And immediately I start to think of people who are good at things instead of who does the Lord want? And so then I'm like, wait a second, focus here on who does the Lord want? And then I saw that I was supposed to be on the bench for the storehouse. And I'm thinking, I don't have anything to do with the storehouse. What am I doing here? Whatever. Okay. So I know I'm called to be on the bench for the storehouse. Who else is supposed to be on this bench? And I saw the names of 2 other people, Harmony and Bonnie. So I went to each one of them and I said, hey, we've been praying about this storehouse, and we feel like the Lord was saying that he's calling you to be a part of the bench of 3 at the storehouse. Could you pray about it too and see if you get a confirmation for that? And so the same thing with Bonnie, both of them got a confirmation. And so we started that. Then we sought, okay, who's supposed to be on the bench of 7, the ones that outwork things? And so then the Lord showed us names of all of those people and showed us what they were supposed to be doing. And so then we went to each one of them. Hey, the Lord was showing us that, you know, this is a calling for you in this area. Can you confirm this with the Lord? Spend some time with him. And if they say no, that's fine. Everybody has free will and we don't always get it right all the time, right? But everybody confirmed. Every single person confirmed. Most of them felt super honored that the Lord would call them to it. And so anyway, for us as a bench of three, we're just engaging in the heavenly realms to see what's supposed to happen. The bench of seven, they're the ones who are finding teams for their different things that they're supposed to do. And they're the ones who are outworking the things and kind of in charge of the outworking of that. So they have a different role. And they might get maybe a download of, oh, all of mine has to do with fundraising. So, Lord, is there a strategy for the fundraising? Oh, you need to ask businesses, you need to ask individuals, you need to do this project fundraiser. You know, they might have a whole more people that are involved in these, you know? So I hope that helps, but that's for sure. I would ask them, yes. If you haven't gotten together, that's totally fine. But at least you've started the work of who is it supposed to be? And then it's up to them to get confirmation. And a lot of times the Lord, if there aren't enough people who are called into it yet, he'll replace them with people in the heavenly realms to basically be a stand-in on the bench so it can still function. Because you literally can't do anything without at least two functioning parts of the bench. And so when I say functioning, I mean, like, for instance, say it's me, Lisa, and Arrayas. Okay. Those are the three who are on the bench for this school. Okay. At first it was great. All three of us were functioning together really well. Then Lisa got cancer and had to kind of pull away. Well, Arrayas and I were still functioning. So we can still bench. But if I get really sick or something, Arrayas can't function by himself. If Arrayas is pulled out for some reason, I can't function by myself. Nothing will happen. There will be no moving forward without at least two people or beings arcing on the bench. Ideally, three together are benching, and that's like perfect kingdom order, you know. But
That's amazing.
well, thank the Lord. It's his plan. So yeah. Okay. So you tried, but you couldn't get a hold of them or something. That's cool. What else happened?
So can I go to the next question?
Sure.
So the next question is how to improve to create kingdom order. I felt I need to rebrand and touch up on my accounting. That's actually an understatement. My accounting is really worst part of my business. And I need to engage about who needs to do that for me. I don't have answers, but that's the area in which I need to upgrade. And then the blueprint, I felt that I need to govern in trading and renegotiating contracts. And influence highlighted to me, I don't know if this is the right answer you're looking for, but I've actually met somebody and got to feel them a little bit in the ICU. Actually it was the cardiologist, and he's working so hard, and got this plan that I need to offer them, that I will come to the practice there at the hospital and treat them there so that they don't have to spend time traveling and waste time. And so I've actually put that in place. That's going to happen. And the other thing that I thought I need to do was, but these were not like, you know, I wasn't engaging getting them. I was randomly popped into my head, but I was asking for strategy. So I don't think I need to be, sitting there getting the idea to make it a heavenly idea. Is that
Right.
right?
I mean,
So the other
everyone
thing,
functions differently, but I'll tell you that's really common for some people. I've seen that with my brother-in-law, Jason. He gets these it's like he knows it's a download from the Lord, but it's not spent in meditation and engaging. It's like that's just how he receives things like that. And
yes,
he is a blueprint person. He is an apostle. He doesn't function even in the heavenly realms very well. But that is how he's gifted in the Lord. And you're the same way. So I'm sure that it's all the strategies being downloaded to you because you're receiving the blueprints.
yeah. Thank you for confirming that, because I was feeling very comfortable with it. And the other thing that I realized is, because here in Mossel Bay, I'm not very well known, so I need to get away of advertising myself. And I thought by running a special facial and including some lymphatic drainage and craniosacral therapy as part of the treatment, and then using that as a advertisement.
That's cool.
Hmm.
I'm sure that's from the Lord. That's part of the marketing. Elvika, you're talking, but you're muted.
Hear me now.
Yes.
I was with her when she got that download. Got the special. I
Awesome.
was with her on Thursday, just before my husband and I left for and we always go away for our anniversary. It was our 32nd anniversary. Can you believe it, on Thursday? So I had a nice treatment with her just before we left. So it was so good.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, Janina, let me speak into the areas of influence for you. These areas of influence are your different mountains. And so it doesn't mean like influenced by a person necessarily, or it just means what am I called to do here so for instance, in your business, you've already named certain ones that are clear. So marketing is one of them. Okay. Now, I don't know if marketing is part of another mountain, another area of influence, or if it's like one of your major ones, but that's definitely one. Finance is one. I don't remember what else you've said so far, but I do know you mentioned like 4 different things basically that were different areas of influence. And so they're different mountains. So you're going to have 7 mountains, and then you're going to have mountains underneath those. So like the source has a healing mountain, and under the healing mountain are all different kinds of healing. And they all have different people who are kind of part of it too. So I don't know if that makes sense, but like healing's one of the 7 mountains, but then there are 7 mountains of healing. And so the same thing maybe for finance or whatever for you. I am just like you when it comes to finances, and I'm on the bench of 3 for this school. I was getting really overwhelmed my first semester, especially. Elvika was part of it. I don't know if no, you weren't. You were the second semester. Oh man. Well, first semester, Amanda was part of it. I don't know if she even understood, but it was so stressful for me to be also running the finances because people would feel guilty to me for not paying on time or whatever. Okay. No, Amanda was second one too. Darn it. Well, anyway, they would feel guilty about it. And I was like, not wanting to ask people for their payment, like, cause I'm feeling weird about it, cause I'm the teacher. And then the Lord, I was just like super burdened by it. I cannot tell you the burden. It was terrible. I am not called the finances. And the Lord just one day said, have you ever heard of the college where the professor is collecting the tuition? And I'm like, no. And he just showed me that is important because I need to have a teacher-student relationship, not a collection agency relationship. Okay, it doesn't work like that. And so he showed me I had to create a bench of 3 for the finances. And so that I did that, and then it's on them to send out emails or whatever is necessary, and to keep the records of who's paid and who hasn't paid, and to go through all the stuff that I don't give a crap about. I really, yes, I love being paid, but that's pretty much all I care about with finances. Like, I don't want to do the books and keep track of who's done what. Like, that's not on me. So a lot of people still will be like, Christine, is it okay if I pay here? And I'm like, oh, it's not my job to even think about that. And so then I have to go to the finance team and go, hey, can you deal with this? Is this what's supposed to happen? Is this okay? Let them govern it. And if they say it's fine, then it's fine. But it's interesting. That's probably what you're going to need to do. So you are going to have to deal with it by finding people to deal with it. You know what I mean? Who is called to be a part of that?
Yes. Yes. I'm already doing that. It's just that I need to have better tabs on things. Like, I do send out invoices because it's easy for me. I know exactly what I need to do.
Uh-huh.
But separating the businesses and stuff like that, it's some technical things that I need to get into place, and then my bookkeeper can do the rest.
Yeah.
But I can't expect the bookkeeper to know if it's here or there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
That makes sense.
easy stuff.
Yeah.
Time consuming, easy stuff.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So any more questions, answers that you have on your homework?
Nope.
Okay. Amparo, you
Thank
want to
you.
go? What?
Well, I didn't really understand what meant the bench of 3. I didn't. Maybe because I missed part of the class, so I'm just hearing that right now. So I don't know how do you do it.
Yeah,
The
here,
bench.
let me explain real quick. Because it's not difficult. Okay. Basically, what we were just talking about, how we, minister from heaven. We just go to the Lord and ask, hey, what's up? What do I need to do? How can I partner with you? Right. So a bench of 3 is 3 people, or some of them might be beings, like might be angels or someone from Cloud of Witnesses or something. Okay. When I say beings, it's just anybody who's heavenly. So anyway, but all you do is together. You can do it on Zoom. You could do it if it's just heavenly beings with you. You could just do it, while you're engaging. But the whole thing is you engage together, you partner together, and you say, Lord, what is it we need to pay attention to? That's pretty much it. You just say, or if there's a certain problem that comes up, Lord, what do we do here? That sort of thing. So when I meet with my bench, they'll be like, I remember I was meeting with Lisa a lot in my first semester because I didn't know what I was supposed to be teaching on. And, now there's like a plan. The Lord has given us the downloads for all of these things, but I didn't know what I was supposed to be teaching on. So every week we'd have to go, okay, Lord, what needs to happen here? Oh, we're having finance problems. What needs to happen here? Oh, what is the tuition supposed to be? Let's ask. Oh, why do I feel very attacked? Well, let's look and see what's happening. And so it's always like we're looking into how's it going. So we're not being attacked without knowing it. We are paying attention to, are we still on the right track? Who's supposed to be a part of it? Whatever it is. So in your own life, likely if you're not having a ministry or business that you're governing, then probably your own life, you have other things that you're supposed to be in charge of, like maybe your kids, or I don't know, making things up, but all sorts of things in your life. You can go, okay, who's supposed to be benching with me over my life? You're going to have angels who are assigned to you. Yeshua's going to be next to you. So you could have like one angel and Yeshua and you, it could just be that. And that's what you depend on, and you work with them the most on it. So just ask who is supposed to be leading with me, because you cannot lead it yourself. You can't. It's not how kingdom order is. There's always a bench of 3 at the top. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, bench of 3. 7 spirits are the bench of 7. They're the ones out working. And so anyway, it's really interesting how the Lord has set these things up, and we're supposed to be reflections of this. So if we reflect it, Holy Spirit can fill it and things will start manifesting. So yeah, all a bench of 3 is basically like a team of, hey, let's pay attention to the Lord. That's it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So,
Thank you.
hope that's helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And Janina, did you get that in the class?
I did. And I just want to say, before you log off so quickly and say goodbye, this has been so super, super helpful.
Good. Praise the Lord. Awesome. Well, I love you guys. And I won't say happy Easter, but I will say I love you, and we will honor the Lord together every day. Okay. Okay. Well, I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Christine.
Welcome. Love you.
Love you too.